All right. So what else have you been working on, my friend? You doing any research or?
Oh, I had gone to Jamaica. I told you about my Jamaica trip.
No. What were you doing in Jamaica?
I got chosen by, I was recommended by someone else and then ended up getting chosen by US Aid to participate. There's a thing through the US Farm Bill called the Farmer to Farmer program, and they work with Partners of the Americas, who works with third world countries. And so through these things, and then a thing called Food for the Poor in Jamaica, I went to Jamaica in September 2022, just a little over a year ago. I went down to work with groups of farmers. It was the year of the Ukraine conflict, and so because of petroleum prices affected synthetic fertilizers, and they were having a hard time affording that. So they wanted someone to come down and work with them on a organic or natural approach to agriculture. So I met with different groups of farmers then to teach them a biological approach and making compost. Because, I mean, you're surrounded by jungle. You've got all this organic matter, green, brown. It's like, take advantage of it.
Right.
So yeah, I worked with them on that, and then I went back. So that I went for 2 weeks, and then I went back for 3 weeks in November to. This was more of a composting trip. I went to the Grand Bahia Principe, which is the largest luxury resort in Jamaica, and they have been working towards going zero waste. So they recycle all their paper, recycle all their computer products. All their waste is obviously going somewhere, but the food was the last challenge for them. So they needed someone to help them figure out. They send a lot of their food scraps to local hog farmers, which is great, but they've got eggshells, coffee grounds, and callaloo, which pigs can't digest or can't eat. So they've got different things on site that they needed to turn into fertility or, deal with as a waste product. And then they've got a lot of landscaping. They have an on-site landscape crew. This is a huge place. So they've got an on-site landscape crew of, gosh, I don't know how many people. So they've got all this landscape debris plus the food scraps. So you've got your browns, you've got your greens, and we just had to figure out a system to work with on site. So I got them set up with starting off with windrows and then moving into an ASP, aerated static system. And I'm hoping that they're still working with that. I had checked in on them, and their skid steer was down like a month or two after I had worked with them, and they were trying to get things going. But so I worked with them, and then another couple resorts just to teach them about composting, and then work with more groups of farmers as well.
Nice, dude. That's great. That's solid work, man. I wish I see these facilities, these HOAs and resort type operations that would so benefit from these types of approaches, because right now the members or the residents, depending on which type you're talking about, are paying to haul all this shit away, whereas there's no reason they can't chip it and reuse it or compost it and apply it. At one point, I actually started working with Merck, but the devil himself, Merck Pharmaceuticals, and they brought me in because they bought a rocket composter. I don't know if you've heard of those. This thing's a piece of shit.
In vessel.
Just a total piece of shit. And I'm like, all right, you make an anaerobic sludge. What are you going to do with that shit, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're going to spread it everywhere. I'm like, no, don't spread that everywhere, because everyone's going to complain about the fucking odor.
Yeah.
You don't have to take that and compost it. Or let it sit until it starts to become aerobic. But for the most part, all you did was make humate, and you wasted all of that nitrogen and any of the other elements that can volatilize. So what did you really accomplish, and how much did you spend? And there was this whole the room that was built and all this soil food web propaganda on the walls, and I'm like, you're not following soil food web. What? Dude, you're doing anaerobic digestion.
Yeah.
But it was so close, dude. Like we almost got the budget to come in there and flip it on its head, and they were going to move it to. They were going to start up another one on another Merck campus right down the road, and it would have been just like I'm talking about, the dream fucking job, because their campuses are fucking huge. They've got all these contaminant sites. Like I walk around these these giant campuses, and I'd be like, hey, why is that soil all bare over there? Why don't you at least cover crop it? And they're like, oh no, we can't go over there. It's contaminated. I'm like, what? They're like, oh yeah, we're that's all fenced off. We're not allowed to go over there. I'm like, well, that your compost over there would begin to clean up those.
Right. Yeah. Plants would clean it and compost.
Right. Would fix it. So all the more reason that you should be friggin' putting all your money behind this process or this new program, because not only would you make your whole site greener, you'd save a tremendous amount of water, you'd save a lot of hauling expenses, and you'd be cleaning up your fucking messes. You'd be wiping your damn asses. And then, unfortunately, I believe it was a new CEO came in, got rid of the program, fired my buddy who had been, basically getting this program off the ground for the last 5 years. Right. And so it was just a heartbreaking story, dude. Just a fucking heartbreaker. We were so fucking close to getting that off the ground. Yeah, they had problems with like bees, like they had like whole like kindergarten and daycare and all this other stuff, and they weren't allowed to spray synthetics on that because the employees rose up and said, no, we don't want our kids exposed to that shit. And so that was another reason they needed this like this organic approach to land care. But unfortunately, again, it all went to hell in a handbasket, which was horribly sad.
They were doing their food scraps, or what were they composting with the rocket composter?
All of the cafeteria stuff.
Okay.
So I think there was 3 or 4 cafeterias on site. So every 3 or 4 buildings would have one cafeteria that all the employees went to. But I mean, you talk about waste so much because a lot of it was buffet style.